It was the fall of 2007. Amanda Knox, a young American student, had just arrived from Seattle to Perugia, Italy for higher education. She was only 20 years old. She had dreams to study abroad, learn about a new culture, make new friends, and perhaps even build her own independent world. But this trip, which was supposed to be a chapter in a joyful academic life, turned into a terrible nightmare, one that haunts her life to this day. Amanda was a completely ordinary girl. Born and raised in the suburbs of Seattle, she was quite focused on her studies, but also interested in sports, music, and literature. While studying at university, she had the opportunity to study abroad for a year, and chose Italy, because the art, literature, and history of Italy had always attracted her. That's how she moved to Perugia, a beautiful city surrounded by hills, where medieval architecture and the excitement of young people coexist. After arriving in Perugia, Amanda started living in an apartment. In this flat, there was another student with her, Meredith Kercher, a British girl who was 21 at the time. Meredith was quiet, shy, but very sweet. The two had a good relationship from the beginning. Even though they were from two different countries, they were friends, went shopping together, talked, and sometimes visited the city together. Everything was going naturally. Amanda then met an Italian young man, Raffaele Solicito. Soon a romantic relationship developed between them. Usually, young people who come to a new country make friends, fall in love, and have new experiences. Amanda's life was going the same way. But everything turned upside down one night in November 2007. That terrible night. November 1st, 2007. The day after Halloween. The city was in a festive mood. But Meredith Kercher met a different fate that night. Someone broke into her house late at night and brutally murdered her. The police later found her body in the bedroom. The bloody scene, the broken windows, and the terrifying atmosphere, all of it shaken the city. The news of the murder spread quickly. From local newspapers to international media, everyone began to cover the incident with great enthusiasm. Such incidents are rare in a quiet city like Perugia. The police began an investigation, and very soon the arrow of suspicion turned to Amanda Knox and her boyfriend Raffaele Solicito. Why was Amanda suspected? There were several reasons behind this. First, Amanda and Raffaele were not with Meredith that night, but their behavior seemed unusual to the police. Second, Amanda repeatedly told different things during police interrogation. Third, the media portrayed Amanda as a mysterious, confusing character. A young woman, a foreigner, whose life might have been a little different in the eyes of Italy. All of these things combined to create a kind of public opinion against her. Police interrogation and Amanda's breakdown. The police continued to interrogate Amanda for hours. The young woman was still not fully proficient in language, and was mentally broken. She was often asked questions that she could not understand the answers to. Under pressure, she sometimes made false confessions, which later turned into terrible evidence against her. Amanda once said that she heard or saw something on the night of the incident. Then she denied it. According to the police, these different statements pointed her to the perpetrator. But Amanda said that she was confused, scared, and unable to explain properly due to language limitations. Her boyfriend Raffaele was also interrogated in the same way. The two were questioned repeatedly, and their small inconsistencies were magnified. Soon the police arrested Amanda, Raffaele, and another African immigrant, Patrick Lumumba. Patrick was later released, but Amanda and Raffaele were caught up in a long trial. Media storm. The Amanda Knox case was not limited to the courtroom. Rather, it became a kind of drama outside, all over the world. The media makes various headlines about Amanda. Some call her Foxy Knoxy, others portray her as a terrifying murderer. The Italian media portrays her as a kind of femme fatale who has shocked society with her independent lifestyle, relationships, and open nature. On the other hand, the American media tends to show her as a young victim who has been misunderstood and wronged abroad. This media conflict makes Amanda's life even more miserable. On the one hand, she is fighting in court. On the other hand, she sees herself in different images every day in the headlines of the world media. Sometimes she is being made into a terrifying murderer. Sometimes she is being portrayed as an innocent angel. Family struggle. Amanda's family is in Seattle at the time. They suddenly hear that their daughter is accused of a horrific murder. The parents, siblings, and all are devastated. But they believed Amanda was innocent from the beginning. Each family member had to travel to Italy, sit in court, and spend their savings on lawyers. Amanda's father said, "We knew Amanda could do no wrong. But if she didn't have a smile on her face, no one would have believed she was falling apart inside." Amanda's mother said, "My daughter was like a child at the time. How could she do something so terrible?" The family's struggle, especially the struggle to rescue her daughter in a faraway country, makes Amanda's life story even more tragic. Public opinion divided. Murder cases are always sensitive. But public opinion was terribly divided over the death of Meredith Kercher. The British press tended to blame Amanda because of the hunger. The darkest chapter of Amanda Knox's life began when she was formally charged with the murder of Meredith Kercher. What began as a police suspicion quickly escalated into a full-blown criminal trial. A young woman in her 20s who had come abroad with the dream of studying, suddenly found herself a victim of Italy's harsh legal system. The drama of the court. Amanda and her boyfriend Rafael Solicito were formally charged in 2008. The charges were that they had killed Meredith Kercher together. They were joined by another man, Rudy Guide, an immigrant from Ivory Coast, who was tried separately. Amanda was portrayed in a completely new light in court. Prosecutors said Amanda was a trap girl, who had turned her independent lifestyle into a criminal obsession. They claimed that Amanda, Rafael, and Guide had killed Meredith together as part of a sex game while high on drugs. How true were these charges? No direct evidence could be presented in court. But the dramatic presentation of the prosecution and the media interest portrayed Amanda as a modern-day villain. Amanda's prison life. After Amanda was arrested, she was kept in Capone prison in Italy. Her life there was filled with inhuman suffering. She was completely alone, thousands of miles away from her family. She could not communicate easily with others because she did not know the language. Many times the prison guards would threaten her, saying, "You may stay here for the rest of your life." Amanda's letters give an idea of her mental state. At one point she wrote, "I do not know what fate holds for me. I do not know if I will ever see the light of day freely again." Amanda endured various hardships in prison, but gradually tried to adapt. She continued to learn Italian, read books, and wrote a diary. But inside she was breaking down. International reaction. The case of Amanda Knox became a major controversy on the international level. People in the United States continued to say that Amanda had been wronged. Many said that the Italian legal system was wrongly framing her. American television channels frequently aired programs about Amanda. Various legal experts said that there was no real evidence in this case, only speculation and dramatic allegations. On the other hand, many in Italy and Britain viewed Amanda with suspicion. Meredith was British, so the British media presented Amanda as guilty. This strengthened public opinion against Amanda. First verdict, guilty. In December 2009, the court found Amanda and Rafael guilty. Amanda was sentenced to 26 years in prison. After this verdict, there was a stir all over the world. A group of people were relieved that the trial was over. On the other hand, Amanda's family and a large part of the United States said, "This is an injustice." Amanda stood in court at that time. "I am innocent. I loved Meredith. I am devastated by her death. I could never have hurt her." But her voice was drowned out by the media noise. Appeal and dramatic twist. Amanda's lawyers did not give up. They appealed and pointed out various inconsistencies in the case. The main inconsistencies were: no clear DNA evidence of Amanda was found at the crime scene. The forensic report was incorrect, and some of the evidence was analyzed incorrectly. Amanda's confession was obtained under duress, which is not legal. After these issues came to light, the appeals court released Amanda and Rafael in 2011. After 4 years in prison, Amanda was finally able to get out into the open air. The media and Amanda's changed life. When Amanda was released, she had spent 4 years in an Italian prison. From a young woman, she became a broken woman whose life had changed forever. Even after returning to the United States, Amanda's life did not get easier. On the one hand, she is happy to be back with her family. On the other hand, whenever she hears her name, people everywhere associate her with the murder case. The media still publishes various news stories about her. Some say she is innocent, while others view her with suspicion. New case. Amanda's release was not permanent. In 2014, the Italian Supreme Court decided to reopen the case again. This news came like a thunderbolt in Amanda's life again. She was then trying to build a new life in the United States. But she was once again dragged into the court drama. The charges against Amanda remained pending until 2015. Finally, the Italian Supreme Court declared Amanda completely innocent. But by then, the best time of Amanda's life had been spent in legal battles and hardships. Backhand index pointing. Right in this chapter we saw the dramatic charges against Amanda by the court, her horrific experience in prison, the international reaction, and the trial that lasted for many years. The most important 4 years of his life were spent in prison, and beyond that, he spent almost a decade fighting to clear his name. In the book, Amanda openly wrote about how she went from being a young woman to suddenly being accused of murder, how she spent her terrible days in prison, and how she fought to prove her innocence. Amanda Knox was finally released by an appeals court in 2011, but her life never returned to the way it was before. 4 years in prison, a trial that lasted almost a decade, and intense pressure from the international media. All of this combined to make her a controversial symbol. On the one hand, the free Amanda was the center of headlines. On the other hand, she was carrying deep psychological wounds inside her. Returning home, but an unfamiliar life. When Amanda returned to the United States, the Seattle airport was crowded with journalists and ordinary people. Some welcomed her with heroism, others turned away and looked at her with suspicion. Although her family breathed a sigh of relief, Amanda could not find herself. After 4 years in prison, the outside world seemed strange to her. Even the familiar city seemed strange to her, because everyone looked at her differently. Amanda later said in an interview, "I knew my life would never be normal again. Even if I was released, I was a prisoner in the eyes of people." Mental trauma. Amanda's prison life was not only physically painful, but also mentally difficult. She repeatedly wrote in her diary how she would break down in loneliness, sometimes feeling guilty and suffering from self-blame, and sometimes bursting into anger. Later, psychologists analyzed and said that Amanda was a victim of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Having terrible nightmares in her sleep, suddenly breaking down, and not being able to trust people. These were her daily realities. Even after her release, she continued to receive therapy for a long time. The invisible chain of the media. The biggest problem in Amanda's life was the media. Even after her release, whenever her name was mentioned, the Meredith Kercher murder case was immediately associated with it. Television channels rushed to interview her. Some media wanted to prove her innocence, while others wanted to increase ratings by calling her a murderer. Amanda felt that she could no longer control her identity, that her identity was captured by the media. She said, "I want people to see me as Amanda Knox, not as a case or a headline character." Reaction from society. When Amanda was released, the reaction from people around her was terribly divided. Some saw her as a victim, a young woman who was the victim of injustice. Others thought she was lucky because the real crime had not been proven. Many attacked her on social media saying, "You killed, the court made a mistake." Social life became a battlefield for Amanda. Many of her friends and acquaintances shunned her. No one wanted to associate with her, because the name was associated with the murder charge. Meredith's family's perspective. Meredith Kercher's family could never fully accept Amanda's innocence. In their opinion, Amanda and Raphael may not have been the direct killers, but they were involved in the incident. Amanda repeatedly said that she loved Meredith and was devastated by her death. But Meredith's family suspicions only added to Amanda's emotional pain. Finding her own voice. Free Amanda realized that if she remained silent, the world would tell her story differently. So she decided to raise her voice. She started writing. Her pain, confusion, and experiences emerged from the diary. She later published a memoir, Waiting to Be Heard, 2013. This book quickly became a bestseller. Through this book, Amanda was able to share her perspective with the world for the first time. Divided public reaction. Even after the book was published, public opinion about Amanda remained divided. Some considered her brave, because she had found her voice. Others say she wrote the book to become popular. Amanda herself said, "I didn't do it for fame. I wrote it because I wanted people to know what the truth was." Relationships and a new life. Freed Amanda gradually began to build a new life. She resumed her studies and worked in journalism. However, her every move was under the scrutiny of the media. "I wanted to live my life normally. But the way people saw me, it felt like I was always trapped in a glass box." Amanda eventually got engaged and later married a writer named Christopher Robinson. Their relationship brought new light to Amanda's life. Voice. Amanda later began to speak out not only about her own experiences, but also about the inconsistencies of the judicial system. She said that many people like her had been wrongly accused and unjustly suffered in foreign countries. She continues to participate in various conferences, talk shows and discussions and says, "My fight is not just for me. I want no young person to go through this experience again." Backhand Index Pointing Right. This chapter explores Amanda Knox's life after her release. Her emotional scars, society's reaction, Meredith's family's perspective, finding her own voice, and trying to build a new life. Despite her release, Amanda remains a prisoner in people's memories and perspectives. 17 years have passed since that night in 2007. Amanda Knox is no longer the simple 20-year-old dream girl she was. She is now a wife, a mother, a writer, a speaker, and a controversial public figure. No matter how her past is interpreted, Amanda lives in a new reality where she is reminded of that nightmare every day. The warmth of family and new beginnings. Amanda married author Christopher Robinson in 2018. Their relationship brought new light to Amanda's life. For a long time, she had been carrying the heavy burden of being viewed with suspicion despite being an innocent. Christopher supported her not only as a partner, but as a listener and fellow traveler. In 2021, Amanda and Christopher welcomed a baby girl. Amanda says, "I was very scared when I gave birth to my daughter, because I know how much it hurts to lose. But at the same time I learned, love is what keeps me going." Motherhood is a new chapter for Amanda. She still feels that the responsibility to protect her daughter makes her stronger every day. Dual relationship with society. Amanda's current life is full of a strange duality. On the one hand, she wants to be happy with her family. On the other hand, the media and society are reluctant to leave her. Whenever Amanda Knox's name is mentioned in any major media outlet, the topic of that horrific incident is immediately linked. She often gives interviews, and many times tries to hide herself. Amanda says, "I want my daughter to know me only as a mother, not as a character in the case. But I know, this shadow may remain forever." Working on law and justice. Amanda has not stopped with her own story today. She has started working on criminal justice reform. In particular, she says, how terrible the consequences of false evidence, confessions taken under pressure, and forensic errors can be. She gives lectures at various universities, runs podcasts, and writes articles. Amanda's statement is, "My life may have been saved. But there are thousands of people around the world, whose names no one knows, who are being unjustly punished." Books, writing, and public voice. In addition to her memoir, Amanda has written various articles. She regularly writes for the press and participates in podcasts. In particular, on her podcast Labyrinths, Amanda and her husband discuss various complex social and personal stories. Here Amanda often shares her own experiences openly. Writing has become a kind of therapy for her, where she can express her pain, fears, and hopes. Criticism has not stopped yet. No matter how much Amanda wants to move forward, criticism has not stopped. Many people still abuse her on social media as a murderer. Many say, "You are free, but you are not innocent." Amanda said in an interview about this, "I know I am innocent. The court has proven it. But it is impossible to win people's hearts. I understand that I have to stick to my own truth." Meredith Kercher's memories. Amanda often talks about Meredith. She admits that Meredith's death has profoundly changed her own life. Amanda said, "I know Meredith's family couldn't accept me, feel their pain. I wanted them to know. I loved Meredith, I never wanted to hurt her." Amanda has made Meredith's memory a part of her life. She doesn't want the name of the victim to be lost in her shadow. Amanda today. Today's Amanda Knox is a complex character. She is a wife and mother who finds small joys in everyday life. She is a writer who questions society through her stories. She is a speaker who highlights the importance of justice. But at the same time, she is a woman who is still fighting to erase the identity of the accused in the eyes of society. In Amanda's own words, "I am not perfect. I've made mistakes in life. But I am not a murderer. I just want to save my life, as best I can." 17 years of learning. Amanda Knox's story is not just a young woman's personal pain, but a lesson for a generation. How fragile the legal system can be. How the media can build and destroy a person's life. How society sympathizes on one hand, and points its finger ruthlessly on the other. Amanda has learned in these 17 years, you can't escape the past, but you can embrace the present. Backhand index pointing right. This chapter highlights Amanda's current life, family, motherhood, relationship with the media and society, her work on law reform, facing criticism, and the pain of carrying Meredith's memory. Amanda Knox is still living in the shadow of that horrific event 17 years later. But she is trying, doing the best she can.